Hey, Fix It Tony here. So, due to the popularity of my last video on the Valvoline Restore and Protect, we're going to do the test on my Yukon here. I spoke about it in my previous video. This vehicle is a 2001 and it's a 5.3 LS, has an LM7 in it. The LM7 is a good motor. These motors are known to go 300 plus thousand miles. The issue with these motors is General Motors, for whatever reason, decided to say, hey, go ahead and go 8 to 10,000 miles between oil changes. And I will tell you, even on the new cars, don't do that. The oil is, with today's fuels and the way that the engines run hot, 10,000 miles is meant for an engine that runs at not severe, usage. And what that means basically is if you're driving it every day and you're very calm and you're not in a dusty area and you have your clean air filter and all the other, situations like that, maybe it'll work. And use a high quality, they use, their certification of what they have is this, semi-synthetic at minimum to do that. But most people throw junk oil in these, run them 10,000 miles, wait for the light to kick on, don't check on the oil level between oil changes, and that's where you start running into problems, buildup and sludge. Sludge is like a avalanche of problems, and what I mean by that is once oil starts to deteriorate, once it gets past the 50% mark, it rapidly starts to break down. So if you run it low, you get it hot, and the oil's already, deteriorating, it will rapidly past that point deteriorate, especially if your oil level's low, because now there's less oil in the system to work around, and it's just not good. Don't go, I would recommend 5,000 miles max, and that's with a synthetic oil. Again, it's cheap insurance, a lot cheaper than replacing an engine nowadays, especially how expensive cars are. Don't do that to yourself. This particular engine, bought this vehicle used with 130,000 miles on it. Noticed right away it did have an oil consumption problem. And with 130,000 miles, with it already being a 15-year-old vehicle at that time, it's less than 10,000 miles a year, which is good, but it also means that they probably went long periods of time between oil changes. And usually a dead giveaway with that is you pull the oil here and you can see that varnish, that color? That's a dead giveaway of what the inside of this engine looks like. So if you're buying a car, take a look in there. If there's any sort of sludge or buildup in here, usually a really good sign that the oil changes maybe have been done on time, but with not superior quality oil, or they were through long periods of time. What causes this issue too is, water getting into the system, and that's just caused by condensation. That is a normal reaction to combustion, is vapor, and vapor will get into the engine and it will mix with the oil and it will start causing problems like that. This does have a cast iron block, which also produces rust. So that mixes with the oil, all sorts of bad stuff starts happening in there. Next thing you know, you end up with sludge. And that's what we had with this engine. I did use a scope, and again, I didn't take video of it, but what we end up doing on this particular engine is I pulled the valve covers, and this was about 3 or 4 months ago, so they're already back dirty. We use this as a truck, so it does get fairly dirty pretty quickly here. But pulled the valve covers. There wasn't a lot of buildup in there, so I was okay with that. It did have an oil leak. The oil pan was leaking a little bit. Usually they leak from the front cover or they leak from the actual pan itself. Pulled the valve covers, and then pulled the oil pan to find that there was probably about that much sludge in the bottom of that pan. Now, this stuff works great, but it is not a miracle worker. I would recommend you use your scope, spend the money, especially if you have questions, drain your oil, put the scope in there, and take a look if you have sludge. If you have sludge, do yourself a favor, just pull the pan down. Pull the pan down, clean the sludge out, because that sludge has to go somewhere. And if you use this stuff, it works great at breaking it down, but it's going to end up in your oil filter. And if there's that much sludge in the bottom of your engine, you're better off taking the pan down, cleaning it out, especially if you already have an oil leak, replace the gasket, put it back up, and then use this stuff, because this stuff is really what we're looking for this to do, is clean the piston rings, because that's where the oil consumption in these engines comes from. They have low tension rings, and in the LS especially, they, second, third generations are very much known to build up carbon, and then oil blows by the ring. And I know this is a 520 bottle, please don't hold it against me. It's just because I didn't have the 530 bottle. We did put 530 in this engine. So currently, and I'll show you right now how many miles we have on this vehicle so you get an idea. This is our beater truck, that's why she's so messy. So right now we currently have 172,000 miles on it. Since the oil change, we have about 1,300 miles on it. So with that said, let me show you what the oil looks like so far. And so it was full when we did this, and because this is the first oil change since doing all this, it's probably low. So let's take a gander here. So you can see oil is already looking dirty, and we're about down one notch there. So that's what you're going to see the first couple oil changes, depending on how much buildup you have. It will take a little while for this stuff to start working, usually 1 to 2 oil changes. And if you start noticing getting black too, and I see this in the comments, change your oil filter. Just do the safety, you know, do the safe thing to do. It's cheap. Oil filters aren't very expensive. I use a high quality filter. You can use Pure Late or Wix. Napa Gold's good. The Ultra Synthetic from Fram is good. I know the orange ones are terrible, but do yourself a favor, pull the filter. You can also get a simple, on Amazon, I'll put it in the description, you can get a filter opener, open it up and take a look inside. If it's full of sludge, you kind of got an idea of what's going on. And these are for heavily sludged motors like this one. This is, again, a 23-year-old vehicle that was not well taken care of. I mean, it's well taken care of now because I own it, but the person who had it before me obviously was not taking very good care of it. And I'll show you the bottom here. Since we replaced the gasket on the oil pan, we do develop a little bit of a rear main seal leak, and then we have a seal leak at the front. So I'm gonna have to go back and go work on that. Actually, this one, we put the STP filter on it, which is another high mileage filter, but again, you got a little bit of oil leak down here, but this is very, very minuscule. This one's mostly caused because that front cover, when I did the oil pan, I should have did the front cover. It's not a horrible leak, but it is leaking a little bit. And then, you know, right now we have the STP filter on there. And again, if the oil starts looking black, we're going to go ahead and do ourselves a favor and swap that filter out before the oil, you know, before the oil filter interval. And we'll continue to add the Restore and Protect. And we'll do this for a couple oil changes here. And we'll start seeing what happens. And you can kind of see the color here we're getting. So a new oil change shouldn't start looking like that probably until about this mileage, maybe a little bit more. So you can kind of see it kind of has that brown hue to it. So it is starting to break down. If you notice, this color is very similar to the color we have on the oil fill cap. These things are always fun to get off. Oh, yeah, sorry. Anybody who has this truck already knows. There it goes. All right. That color is very similar to that color. So the stuff breaking down in there is the stuff you're seeing in here. So let me go and grab the scope and we'll go down in there so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about and get a better picture. All right, so we're taking a look at it. That's the rocker. Take a look around. So you see that right there. See that brown crud? That's what we're trying to get rid of. And you can see it down there. That's what's all over the engine. And if it's here, I guarantee you that is also up in the rings. So this is what we're trying to get rid of. So I went in and started up the truck just so you guys can hear. This thing runs super smooth. Just to note, this will not fix the lifter problem. So if you have lifter that turned sideways in here and started making a whole bunch of noise, oil will not fix that problem. Lucas, people throw Lucas, all sorts of stuff, that will not fix the problem. But this will remove that oxidation and that buildup on those lifters. So if you do have a stuck lifter, you kind of, you know, a lot of people use Marble Mister oil or a few other, you know, sea foam to get rid of that. This also, I've found, it works pretty good at it too. It's removing the carbon buildup in the lifters. But if you have a mechanical failure, you're going to need a mechanical repair. I just don't want anybody to think that you can just throw this oil in and you have a major mechanical error. You know, if you have scoring in your pistons, scoring on your cylinder walls, you have worn out valves, oil will not fix that problem. I just want to make that really, really clear because I have some people asking about that sort of thing. If you have a mechanical failure, this will not fix a mechanical failure. Now, if you have problems caused by carbon, like this engine, this will help you. But again, if it's a lot of sludge and a lot of carbon, you want to do some more work. You want to go in there and manually remove as much sludge as you can. That will include, you know, a lot of times these valve covers are leaking anyway, so you probably have to go in there anyway. Go in there, remove whatever sludge is in there, replace your gasket, oil pan gasket, pull down the oil pan, remove the sludge out of there, put a new gasket on it. You're going to make this whole process a lot easier. These trucks, and as a lot of people will contest, there's a reason there's a lot of these old Suburbans, Tahoes, Yukons, and Yukon XL still on the road. This LM7 is a fantastic motor, but you cannot go long periods of time without oil changes, and you gotta do your routine maintenance. They have their problems just like every other vehicle, but there's no reason that these won't go 400,000 to 500,000 miles. I work for an auction, and I will tell you, I routinely see these SUVs coming with 300,000+ miles and still running. The weak point being the transmission. The 4L60E is not known to be the greatest transmission out there. It will fail usually about 150,000 to 200,000 miles, but they're very cheap to rebuild and put back in. That's why, you know, when you're looking at a new Yukon, a Suburban, and you're looking at $70,000, $80,000, keeping an old one around is not such a bad idea. And especially since you can pick one of these up for, you know, between $3,000 and $7,000 in decent shape. This one, again, has the normal wear and tear that these get on them, including the clear coat starting to have problems and, you know, just little stupid problems. That rattling ear actually is, somebody stole the cats off of this, and we actually just put new cats on it, but the heat shield that they put on it, unfortunately, is not on there all the way, so we're going to get underneath there and re-weld that back on. But otherwise, this engine's solid. There's no reason once we do this and continue to use this oil that we shouldn't be able to get another 200,000 miles out of this engine. Again, changing oil more often, no more than 5,000 miles, and making sure we're just keeping an eye on things. Also, when you do this, do your regular maintenance. Make sure your PVC valve is not clogged. If it is, replace it. Make sure your coolant's good. Make sure that your air filter is good. That's also very important. You're not going to help your engine doing stuff like this if you're not going to do your routine maintenance. Even the most overlooked item, which is replacing your brake fluid. It's very easy. You don't have to flush it out. You know, what I do is very easy. I just use a turkey baster. I take as much fluid as I can out of it, and I put fresh fluid in it. And I do that about every other oil change, and that will help you keep that fluid fresh. You don't have to remove all of it. You can if you want, but it's not necessary because this fluid's constantly cycling. With that said, guys, please comment and share at the bottom here. Subscribe. You know, 90% of the people watching this video are not subscribers. There's a lot of cool content coming here. I have, at my house, I installed lifts. We're going to do a lot of cool stuff here in the future. So to see what's coming, please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.